Hi, I'm Paralympic cyclist Samantha Bosco, and today I want to talk to you about name tags. We've all worn name tags, like who we are, what we do, what our parents do, even what we eat for lunch. But sometimes these name tags can have limitations, so I'd like to play a video for you.
Diminished, less, invisible, outcast, ostracized, infirm. These words are often used to define disability. But if we open our minds, we might see something different. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you.
I may look normal to you, but what you can't see is that I was born with a bowed tibia in my right leg. At 4, I had surgery to correct that bowed tibia, and my right leg was 2.5 inches shorter as a result. I did everything normal kids did. I played sports, went to school, procrastinated on my homework. And then I had surgery at 11, and that surgery had some complications. It's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. Before that surgery at 11 that didn't go quite as planned, I had fallen in love with mountain biking, and I was very much a mountain biker. This also made me pretty adventurous because every time we rode our mountain bikes, there was always a new trail to explore. And that was fun to me, and that carried over into things off the bike too. And I was pretty strong-willed, but I was probably born with that name tag. But then I had surgery, and that didn't go as planned. I spent 3 years on crutches, had a dozen surgeries, and was left with this big brace on my right leg that basically looked like a metal cast. To make matters worse, my family and I moved from Alaska to New York, where I didn't know anybody. And I didn't want anybody to see my leg, so I became a loner. My mom didn't like this, though, and she decided to get me on an indoor rowing machine as a form of rehab, and I fell in love with it. Because that strong-willed name tag isn't going anywhere anytime soon. That loner name tag, though, that was the biggest one for me at the time. But these name tags with limitations only hold us back. Einstein got this. He said everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. Now, obviously, that's silly. Fish can't climb trees. But what he meant was that we will live our whole life believing these name tags with limitations and not fulfill our potential. And those are the times that we must remember it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's easy to remember it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you, when I'm saying it to you and when you're seeing it on a screen. But what do you do with what happens to you? That's where the 4 S's of resilience come in: self, situation, support, and strategy. The first S of resilience asks ourselves, am I a victim or a survivor? When I first got off crutches and started rowing, each day I felt more normal. But I still had tough days, and I felt very much a victim. My mom didn't like that I felt that way. She liked when I was happy and wanting to get on the indoor rowing machine, so she wanted to build on those feelings and found a Learn to Row program. She signed me up. Now, You probably would have thought that I would have said no, that I didn't want to do it. I didn't want anybody to see what had happened to me. I didn't want anybody to see my leg. But to her surprise, and to mine, I said yes. That first day, I was pretty nervous. But I quickly realized that everyone there was literally in the same boat. We didn't know what we were doing, and we all kind of just wanted to learn and love the sport together. And nobody looked at what my leg looked like. Nobody judged me for how I looked. I fell in love with it. So I asked my mom if she can sign me up for the club. That first day, I practically ran. Unfortunately, I ran right into the boys' novice rowing coach. She looked me up and down. And you know what she said to me? You'll never make it as a rower with a leg like that. I was devastated. She might as well have just slapped me in the face. But if I saw her today, I would thank her. Because in that moment, she turned me into a survivor. There was no way I was going to let her tell me I couldn't be something, couldn't do something. The only body who could tell me I couldn't be or do anything was me. I ended up getting a full athletic scholarship to college. And then I got knee pain. I had it all. Rowing in Florida in the sunshine, new school, new friends, new hobbies. And then I lost it thanks to knee pain. I didn't know who I was anymore. But my dad knew. He got me back on a bike. And with a little help, made it so it didn't really hurt that much and I could ride. And I clipped in the first day in my mom's shoes that were a touch too small for me, wearing my dad's jersey that was way too big for me. And I went for a ride. And in that ride, I realized that my dad helped me get over an overwhelming situation. In that ride, he had shown me that I can turn the situation into a challenge simply by changing my mindset. I fell in love with biking again. I had found a new purpose. I had found me again. And I jumped headfirst. I got started racing in Florida and then met a bike race promoter named Tim and started working for him. Tim introduced me to paracycling. My mom and I went up to a race in Greenville, South Carolina to see if I classified, and I found out that I did. And so I started paracycling and realized it was going to be pretty expensive and not something I could do by myself. That's when DK, a friend of mine, showed me that I didn't have to do it alone, that I could have his support. My dad and I had just started out for a recovery ride when we met DK. He was actually already on the trail and had crossed the street in front of us as we were making our way to the trail. So I knew in that moment that my dad and I were going to try to chase him and catch him. There was no more recovery ride. We never really did catch him, but we had caught and passed a friend of his. And so when we got to the trailhead, we stopped and chatted with him. We introduced ourselves, and then he laughed at us. He said, "Oh, I know who you guys are. I rode with you guys before, and I knew that you were trying to catch me, and I wasn't going to let that happen." So we laughed over that and bonded, and I started telling DK about my paracycling adventure, and he decided that he wanted to support me. Turns out, he's a surgeon and the owner of the Tampa Bay Vein and Vascular Institute, and my first sponsor. But I'll let you in on something. I still had knee pain. I just thought that I had to keep pushing through and push through more when it hurt more. But I kept breaking. My training was inconsistent. And I had to take time off the bike. Then I met my husband at a bike race. He'd had professional fits his whole life, and he knew that I didn't have to be in pain. It's kind of like when your shoes don't fit right. If they're too small or too big, you can't walk, get sore toes, they just hurt. That's how my bike fit was. And then I met Andrew, and he showed me that I didn't have to be in that pain if I had just asked for help. And he showed me that when one strategy doesn't work, I can have another. The knee pain got less and less, and I started riding more consistently, started training better, faster, longer, stronger. Started doing better in races. Started dreaming about going to the Paralympic Games. And then I accomplished it. It's not what happens to you. It's what you do with what happens to you. So that novice boys rowing coach was right. I didn't make it as a rower. I had made it as something bigger, something greater. I was a cyclist again. And that strong-willed name tag that's not going anywhere anytime soon came in pretty handy when I got to Rio, my first Paralympic Games. The first day of competition was the 3K individual pursuit on the velodrome. It's a basically 12-lap race, and you're chasing somebody on the opposite side of the track. I qualified third that day. Made it to the bronze medal round. And in that bronze medal round, I won by 4/1000ths of a second and became a Paralympic medalist. A few days later, I got another bronze medal in the road time trial. So I was very much a Paralympic medalist. I gotta tell you, I really love cycling. And I wanna go to more games. I wanna go to LA 2028 because it's in my backyard. It's at home. All my friends and family, all of the people who have supported me can witness me getting to achieve that dream, to achieve going to the games. But I don't plan on racing past 2028. I plan on riding bikes, but I don't plan on racing anymore. I don't want to feel the way I did when I had to retire from rowing. I don't want to be defined by just my sport. So I went back to school to prepare for that day, to have some choices when I retire as a paracyclist. I got a bachelor's degree in communications because I love talking. And I got a master's in accounting degree because I love playing with money. And I also wanted to be a team for someone else. So many people have supported me in my journeys as a paracyclist that I want to be that for someone else. I want to be that support for people like my friends who opened up a physical therapy clinic. I helped them with branding, with their logo, with their social media. And I helped my husband with his own. And I even help my husband with the bookkeeping. Some days it's a lot of hard work. And sometimes I do way too much. But I'm working on it. And I get through the tough days because I know it's not what happens to you. It's what you do with what happens to you. So let's recap those 4 S's. Self. Am I a victim or survivor? Situation. Is this overwhelming? Or is it a challenge? Support. Am I alone or part of a team? Strategy. Do I have one or many? And I even have a book of quotes that I use to help me when I'm working on being better, both on and off the bike. One of my favorites is from my favorite singer, Pink. She said, "My definition of stupid is wasting your opportunity to be yourself because I think everybody has uniqueness and everybody's good at something." Everybody has uniqueness and everybody's good at something. But we can't always be great. That's when I remember the quote from a famous painter, Vincent van Gogh. Success is sometimes the outcome of a whole string of failures. I wouldn't be a Paralympian cyclist if it wasn't for the failures I had leading up. So I ask you this: how do you want people to see you? As for me, I want to be seen as a happiness guru. I think life is pretty awesome. Even when something bad is happening, there's still good to be seen from it, if we can only look for it. I also want to be seen as a creative. I want to use what I've learned in school to help other people build their businesses and be successful themselves. And I like taking photos and taking videos. And I also want to be seen as strong-willed, because I told you that name tag isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And remember, it's not what happens to you. It's what you do with what happens to you.